How it's supposed to feel. How it's supposed to
Why do I like technology, computers, and the like? Is it nature, the fact that I've always been an inherently curious person, or is it nurture, the fact that for pretty much as far back as I can remember, my dad was always repairing computers for us and for other people? Honestly, it's probably a bit of both. I'll let the philosophers parse out the details. But I do know this. Computers have been a part of my existence and experience going back to my early childhood. One of my earliest experiences with computers was with MS-DOS, playing some educational games. I remember this dog, like a hush puppy or something like that, and this like castle, and it was this graphically rendered but very simplistic game with the beeps and the boops and the very 8-bit music, and you could like go to different parts of this like main screen castle, and then it would go to these different educational mini games. There were a few others like that. My recollection and experience of using MS-DOS is pretty limited at the time. I'm sure somebody just set the game up for me, and then I went on my merry way. I remember having to install games using 3 floppies at a time and that sort of thing. And I remember the day that we went to a great big computer store. I don't even know which one it was to this day to buy. I'm going to assume it was Windows 98. Could have been Windows 95. I remember the box had this like jumping like dolphin and everything like that. I'm pretty sure it was Windows 98. I'll try and find the box and put it up on the screen somewhere over here. And I remember going there, and I remember this sort of dates the time period as well. They had those things where you could like the kiosks where you could go put on the headphones and then you pressed a number to listen to samples of various CDs. And I remember the saleswoman there asking me,
What kind of music do you like?
and I was like,
Christian music?
and she was like,
We don't have any of that. But here, listen to like Will Smith.
and so I started listening to the soundtrack for Wild Wild West from Will Smith, and my mom coming over and getting upset, not because I was listening to Will Smith, but because I had wandered off. And I remember we purchased a IBM Tower computer. If I can find a picture, I'll flash it up. And Windows 98 editor Chris here. I could not find, unfortunately, the exact tower that we had. But the fact that I recognized so many of these towers when I searched 1996, 1997, 1998, 1999, and the tower computers that come up, the number of designs that I actually recognize, it brings back even more memories of that and just shows me like how many computers my dad used to repair because I recognize so many of these models. Not by model name, but just like the designs and stuff like that. We used to actually have a room about the size of this room, probably bigger than this room. Actually, yeah, definitely bigger than this room, that was filled with old tower computers and monitors and things. And if we needed to upgrade something, grab some more RAM, change the audio card, whatever, we would literally go into that room and pull out a board and then stick it in our computers. Like that's how I grew up with computers. Crazy times. We got the original Freddy Fish game and some other software at the time. We got Corel Photo Paint and Corel Draw, as well as I believe Microsoft Word at the time. And it was such an exciting thing to get all of those things. A lot of these programs are things that we don't get excited for anymore. And that's something I kind of miss, and something I'd like to talk about is the excitement and the enthusiasm that I had for technology is something that has existed because of these early formation. And I don't know if I would be so excited by technology had I been born later on. Maybe younger viewers in the comments can go ahead and let me know their experiences, as well as older viewers, because I'd be very curious how your experience and your thought process on technology differs. Maybe having been born in an era where I was born just on sort of the sort of cusp of mass adoption of personal computers. This certainly predated me. People were having Commodores and Ataris and things like that. But I don't think it was as like ubiquitous as then. I grew up with dial-up internet and this kind of thing. But yeah, like I think it was exciting to go to a computer store. It was cool to see all the new software in the big, almost cereal-sized boxes, with giant manuals printed inside, and things like that. And if you've been to a computer store recently, it's like definitely not that experience. It's just a pretty boring store. In my opinion, all of the technology is very same-ish looking. All of the computers from any brand look more or less the same. If we're honest, it's not the phones. You can't really buy much software other than maybe TurboTax actually in a box anymore. So there's no interesting packaging to look at for like games and things. But I mean, sure, there are for like console games and things like that. But it was always so interesting to look at all the boxes. And I remember the ones that had like the open up flaps, like we had for like copies of like Need for Speed and that sort of thing, where you could open up the flap and have all these illustrations. It was just so much cool thought and care into like packaging like that. And now we're like mostly wowed by like Apple packaging's complete minimalism in the other direction, as opposed to these cool like illustrations and things. And I do miss the old days of computing. And I think why I like technology is the discovery of new things, the curiosity of it. And that's what a lot of this stuff on this channel is about. It's not so much, reviews of like new stuff coming out per se, at least not at this point. It is more so, what can I do with my computer? What can I do with what I already have? What can I do that is really cool and interesting? I spent most of my life, despite the fact that we technically could have internet, without the internet. And I'm grateful for that, because I think those limitations pushed me to figure out all that I could do with my computer in a cool way, to be a creative person. See, this is probably one of the reasons why Linux is both very fascinating to me, but very non-utilitarian to me, because I'm all about what I can do with my computer. And there's a part of me that wants to customize my computer to the nines the way that Linux will let me do. But then once I've done that, I always run into some hurdle of something I can't do on that computer. And it's frustrating because I know I can just do it on other computers I already have. And so for me, it's always been about, how can I be creative with this tool? How can it fuel my creativity, like the creativity that I'm doing right now? And what way can I get around those limitations? And that has been one of the things that I have explored on the Linux side, is like, how can I get around these limitations? But it often becomes more friction than it's worth for me at this juncture. I'm sure I'll find some way to use it at some point. I'd love to hear about what got you into technology, because you're watching this channel. You would not be watching this video if you didn't care about this stuff, unless you just like my vibe, in which case, thanks so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate you either way, and especially if you've made it this far in the video. Why don't you give it a thumbs up, subscribe, especially that subscription. Most people who watch my videos are not actually subscribed to my videos. And what that does is, it doesn't just big number go up. It allows me to eventually get monetized so that I can make more videos like these and spend more time on things like these. And it lets me know that people are interested in what I have to say. Anyhow, thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. Do you see that? Why can't I set this to Canadian English?
How it's supposed to